والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Welcome everybody from around the world. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem, and this is the BAK show, where we're going to be discussing things which are important to you and to the Muslim Ummah at large. Of course, I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem, and we're going to get started here. We want to welcome everybody. This is your show. We want you to bring your questions, your comments, and your concerns. If it has anything to do with the Muslim Ummah or things which are associated with the Muslim Ummah, we'll be happy to either answer it or tell you that we don't know and try to get the answer for you. We're going to get started right away. But first, I need your help. I want you guys to help me out with something here. Brothers and sisters, we are working on a project. And quite frankly, we need your help. We are working on a project called Voices of Truth. What is Voices of Truth? Voices of Truth is a project that I am heading wherein we are documenting the atrocities which were committed by the Assad regime by interviewing the people who were survivors of his notorious prisons or family members of those who were incarcerated and just basically disappeared, never to be heard from again. And in some cases, we'll be actually having some conversations inshallah, with people who actually committed some of the crimes. And we think that that's an important part of the conversation as well. Why are we doing all of this? We're doing this because we absolutely need to document it, because if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat history if you don't know it. So we need your help. We want you guys to visit our crowdfunding page. That's on medina.com/voices of truth. Medina.com/voices of truth. It's right there on your screen. Just take a look at it. If you can help us out with $100, $200, $50, $10, we'd be happy and thankful for it. Okay, brothers and sisters? Once again, that's medina.com/voices of truth. Let's get started here. Okay, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the sanctions, if you want to call it that. I think you already see where this is going. That were levied against Israel by the United Kingdom. Let's take a look at what the Foreign Secretary David Lammy had to say. And I quote, "Today, we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement." UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy. Let's try to dissect this just a little bit here. First issue, today we've suspended negotiations. What does that mean? That doesn't mean that the United Kingdom has suspended trade relations with Israel. Now, a lot of people have got this thing wrong. That's not what it means. What it means is that they won't be negotiating any new trade agreements. That's it. I want you to look at this again. Today we have suspended negotiations with the Israeli government on a new free trade agreement. That means whatever agreements are currently in place, that's it. That means that right now we're not going to talk about anything new. Well, doggone. You're helping to fund a genocide. And we're going to talk about that in a second. And the best you can do is say, yo, we ain't going to talk about no new trade agreement. Come on, guys. Who's fooling who? But, oh, wait a minute. Most of you guys don't know who David Lammy is. Well, let's go back to 2023, after the October 7th attacks on the Israelis committed by Hamas. We've got David Lammy. Let's take a look and see what he had to say at that time.
The tyranny of Hamas, and we must recognise that Israel is facing a huge existential crisis. 1,300 people dead, murdered, babies raped, and against that backdrop of
babies raped? What babies were raped? There were no babies that were raped. And to my knowledge, I don't know that he ever took this statement back. I would love to see if somebody out there has seen something or heard something wherein he took the statement back. I'd love to hear it. So I never heard him take that statement back. He put that out there. Babies raped? Where did this come from? It actually came from Israeli sources, they were totally debunked. But the point of the matter is that they were very quick to be able to say that there were babies raped by Hamas, evil Hamas. But when it comes to the people whom they are funding for this genocide, all of a sudden now want to suspend trade agreements because they are a measured democracy. Right. Okay. Let's talk more about these trade agreements, okay? These trade agreements, including weapons exports, are still in play. Now, you can't be serious about doing away with the a genocide or slowing down Israel if you're not going to stop weapons exports to them. Now, to their credit, in September of 2024, they actually suspended 30 of 350 licenses to export military equipment to Israel. 30 of 350. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, right. All right. So people might say, come on, Bilal, that's a piece of it. Are you not happy with anything? Well, let's take a look and see where this whole thing is going. That happened in September of 2024. Between October, remember October's after September, October to December 2024, $169 million worth of military equipment was approved for Israel. Now, sometimes these numbers can be a bit abstract because, well, what does that mean exactly? I'll give you a little bit of context for it. This $169 million worth of military equipment that was approved for Israel supersedes the number of military equipment that was approved for Israel for 4 of the previous years. 4 of the previous years did not equal to the total of $169 million worth of military equipment that was approved for Israel after the sanctions were put forward. Who's kidding who, guys? Let's be for real here. Now, even with those sanctions which were put in place in 2024 in September, now it did include the F-16s, fighter jets, but there's a little bit of a problem with that. The Israelis don't really use the F-16 fighter jets inside of Gaza. What do they use? These are F-35 jets. Oh, wait a minute. They were exempted. They were allowed to continue to send parts from the F-35 jets to the Israelis so that they can continue their campaign. Guys, this is nothing more but smoke and mirrors. What they understand is that this Israeli ship is sinking, and it's sinking fast. You guys have got to understand something. Look, one thing is clear. They've been bombing the Gaza Strip, which is not that big, since 2023. Since October of 2023, they've been steadily bombing them. Now there's a famine that's in place there, and they still have not defeated Hamas. Try to understand, brothers and sisters, where all of this is actually coming from. So their allies are now understanding that, look, I don't think that Israel can win this. That's what they're saying, because they haven't been able to do it thus far. Yes, they can kill a lot of civilians. Yes, they can starve the civilian population, but they're no closer to being able to actually defeat Hamas, which is not the actual goal. The actual goal is to depopulate the Gaza Strip so that they can take it over. It's been said by Smotrich. It's been said by so many of the different politicians in the Israeli government. Now, they also sanctioned the United Kingdom pursuant to the sanctions in which David Lammy put forward Daniela Weiss, which is known as the godmother of Zionism. Now, basically, this woman, this awful woman, has been quite vocal in wanting to take over the Gaza Strip. She says, don't just let them go anywhere. When they say, okay, well, where are the Palestinians supposed to go? She said they should go to the world. These are her responses. You see, she was sanctioned as well. But who the heck is she? And wait a minute, if you're giving parts for F-35 jets, and you're sending other military equipment, and you're flying recon missions over Gaza, giving the information back to the Israelis, which is known that the UK government is doing, the best you've got is that you can say, well, you know what? We're going to suspend talking about new trade agreements. You can't make this stuff up, brothers and sisters. Let's go to your questions. Let's see what's important to you. Let's see here. All right. Number one, Salam Akhi Bilal. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do you see any option where Trump will reassess alliances and see that the Gulf makes U.S. trillions while Israel costs the U.S. billion each year and endless wars? No, I don't see that. Why? First of all, because the AIPAC lobby has basically dominated the Congress and the Senate. They are funding their these elected officials, these lawmakers. So no, it's not all in Donald Trump's hands either. What's more, don't expect that this rift that you think that you're seeing between Trump and Netanyahu is real. Before his Gulf trip, where he was going to get trillions of dollars, we didn't really know that. We weren't hearing anything about there was a big beef between Netanyahu and Donald Trump. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, during his Gulf trip, he didn't stop through Israel. What's he got to stop for? They're already giving them billions of dollars, political cover, and everything else. What, you know, to overstate things like this, that he didn't stop by or something like that, just to keep the people busy discussing, well, really, he didn't stop by? Why didn't he stop by? Doesn't he know that there's a plate of food waiting for him? Come on, guys. We can't fall for these tricks, because the reality of the situation is that when you're sending bees and you're sending rockets and you're sending bombs and you're giving political cover, and then somebody decides not to stop by, and then all of a sudden people are saying, that's right, he's switching alliances. Nah, man, I don't see it. I just don't think it's going down like that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So, the Gulf states shamelessly, as the rockets and bombs were falling on Gaza, they were showering Donald Trump to the tune of $3 trillion. I'm talking about $600 billion investment over 4-year plan with Saudi Arabia. 142 billion of those dollars are earmarked just for the Defense Department. And the Qataris came forward with $1.2 trillion investment in the United States. And then after that, he went to the United Arab Emirates, where they made a 10-year pledge to invest $1.4 trillion. My math ain't the best, but I can count. That's more than $3 trillion. And now I would also put forward that, there was a beef between me and Netanyahu. Shoot, give me that money. And then after it's over, then he goes and he sits with Ramaphosa from South Africa, as he did today, and then he says there's a genocide against white folks in South Africa. There's a genocide right over here in Gaza. Oh, wait a minute. But nobody wants to talk about that. Why? Because you're funding it. So who's going to call out a genocide when you're the one that's putting the cash on the table? Come on, brothers and sisters. We have to know how they play the game. Next. All righty. Next. Ahmed says, is it possible the Gulf can bribe their way, same way AIPAC does, and eventually take over AIPAC? Well, I mean, anything is possible, but the issue is that the Gulf countries are aligned with the Israelis. The Gulf countries are aligned with the Israelis. The Saudis, before the October 7th, 2023 attacks, were in three-way negotiations with the United States, wherein the Saudis were going to recognize the Israelis as a sovereign state. But what one of the issues with that is that recognizing them and their right to exist means that the lands that they stole from the Palestinians, the Saudis would have to, by default, acknowledge that those lands are Israeli lands, and they were going to recognize the Israelis. What were the United States going to give the Saudis in return for that? A pact to defend them against external enemies, and in addition to that, nuclear warhead, nuclear technology. That's what they were going to provide for the Saudis. The Israelis, of course, were going to be recognized by the most important Arab country, where it's the birthplace of Islam. So basically, all the other countries basically just fall in line along with it. That was the three-way deal that they were supposed to put forward in Saudi Arabia. That fell through after this October 7th, 2023 attacks. But believe me, the Saudis are just waiting for this whole thing to blow over so they can get back to the negotiating table. When we go over to Qatar, you got to understand that the Americans and the Israelis are one. They're not two, they're one. And the biggest U.S. air base in the entire Middle East is right there inside of Qatar. And why is that significant? Well, it's significant because you're not hosting the United States military's biggest base, except that you are aligned to some extent with their biggest ally in the region, which is Israel. Don't tell me anything otherwise. You're not telling me that you are anti-Israel, but Israel's biggest ally and funder is in your country with the biggest air base, with the biggest military base in the Middle East. Come on, guys, let's get for real. As for the Emiratis, these are the same Emiratis that worked hard to bring legitimacy to the Israelis, and they even blamed Hamas and all, totally bypassing the entire history of what's been going on in those Middle Eastern, in the Palestinian territories. So is it possible? Definitely possible. Is it likely? Not until there's a purge of the current leaders. And Allah knows best. Next, we've got here, okay, next item up for bids. We've got here Mr. Hussein, who says, Salam, Brother Bilal. Firstly, great analysis, as always, Allahumma barak. Jazakallah khair. What advice would you give Muslims living in the West? How can we help our brothers in Gaza, Sham, and the Ummah in general? Okay, let's talk about Gaza. All right, now, maybe some people are not going to like what I'm going to say here, but I got to tell you what I think that is the right thing to do. Contact your congressman and your local senator. You got to go up to them. You've got to continue to pressure them. Calls, letters, protests, campaigns. You've got to continue to make them understand that there is a price to pay for their support of this dead-end Israeli endeavor. You have to keep up the pressure. You can't get frustrated. You got to understand something. The boycott of Starbucks, it counted. The boycott of McDonald's, it counted. The boycott of so many Israeli products, it counts. It matters. Don't think that your voice is too small. I saw something in South Korea where there's one guy that's out there every day in South Korea, where he's protesting to raise awareness for what's happening in Palestine. That's South Korea, brothers and sisters. Anything that you can do to raise awareness, write articles for the newspaper, share on social media, stay engaged. There's too many of us that they could ignore us if we work. As for Shem, what you need to do also, in my opinion, is you have to stay engaged. You've got to continue to follow updates in terms of what's happening here in Sham with the new government. Are they implementing the Islamic rules and laws which they promised or not? And you've got to share. You've got to make sure that they can hear your voice as well. There's no voice that is totally silent, brothers and sisters. So yes, this is my advice. And Allah knows best. Okay. All right, next up, we've got Brother Bilal. With the levels of starvation and the little aid coming in, what do you think the situation could look like in a month or two? I think that the window of opportunity to exterminate the Palestinians has closed. You see, one of the things that these sanctions, no matter how toothless they actually are, could add a cascade effect. Because when you have these, the United Kingdom, which put their sanctions, if you want to call it that, the European Union said that they're going to review their trade relations with Israel. They're going to think about whether they should do something. That's the type of language that you have here, bearing in mind that 32% of Israel's foreign trade goes right to the European Union. They have a lot of clout, a lot of muscle, economic muscle that they can flex, but they choose to take this thing only to this level of we're going to talk about whether we should actually be thinking about suspending some trade agreements, which they're probably going to do the same thing as the United Kingdom, wherein they're just going to say, well, we're going to think about talking about maybe we coulda, woulda, coulda, shoulda, maybe not talk about whether we should send more stuff or something. Yeah. Okay. So I think, and Allah knows best, that the amount of aid that's going in is not going to be acceptable because the people who, or I should say the countries which are helping Israel, they're starting to panic because they're feeling that there might be some legal ramifications for them as individuals, not necessarily as a country, but as individuals in the future, because this is a genocide which is taking place right on camera, and these countries are aiding and abetting them. Okay, so I think we kind of answered this. What is the ultimate and realistic goal for Palestine? Well, we talked a little bit about that for the last question, but I can't call it. I'm not going to try to pretend and tell you how this thing is going to end because I don't know. But I do think that a lot was lost, but a lot was achieved. The world had stood by and just watched as the Palestinians basically lost everything as the years went by, and nobody cared. It was a non-issue. Even Saudi Arabia was looking to normalize relations. So it was a non-issue. It's an issue now. Where it's going to go now, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Okay, next up. One, a so-called democratic Israel where all people live. Two, a two-state solution. I don't think it's going to be either one of them. Now, I know you're thinking that, okay, well, it's got to be one of the two. No, that's if there's a settlement. But the Israelis have always resisted a settlement. They don't want a settlement. Why? Because their borders are expansive. And a settlement means that your borders are now going to be static. You have to declare where your borders end and where they begin. That's what an agreement would look like. The reason why they have always said, let's talk, let's negotiate, and negotiations break down, and then when they're almost to an agreement, they move the goalpost. That's all designed so that there's no agreement. Because when there's no agreement, new settlements can be built and can be put forward. So that's why they don't want to have an agreement. So it's not going to be a democratic Israel because there would be a major seismic shift in the leadership of Israel. It would no longer be a Jewish state. And it won't be a two-state solution because what kind of two-state solution are we talking? It can only be a real two-state solution if the Palestinians have sovereignty and they have their own ports and it's not surrounded by the Israelis. The Israelis are not going to go for that because after they've done what they've done, the first thing the Palestinians are going to do, if they have any type of semi-qualified leadership, is rearm because they know this is not over. Next. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Bilal. Alongside donating, how else can we help our brothers and sisters in Sudan? You know, there's a great short documentary that I saw. It's called Blood and Gold. Take a look at that on YouTube. Blood and Gold. It really highlights the role of the United Arab Emirates in the gold trade in Sudan and how it's fueling the conflict there and their support of Hemeti, who's formerly from the Janjaweed, who've been accused of war crimes dating back to the genocide in Darfur, and it's happening all over again. It's called Blood and Gold, so take a look at it, and I would say get educated, share it as much as you possibly can. The United Arab Emirates needs to be boycotted. I'm going to say this again. The United Arab Emirates needs to be boycotted. Muslims around the world and non-Muslims need to stop spending their money in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Find another place to invest. Why? Because if you've got a country that's going to invest $1.4 trillion of the Muslims' money in the same country that is funding and arming the genociders, then there's only one thing that is actually in place. They're using your money to fund the genocide. They're taking the money from their government accounts, passing it over to Trump. Trump passes it to Netanyahu. Now, you might say that that's an overly simplistic look at it, Bilal. They don't give it directly to Netanyahu. Okay, they may not give it directly to Netanyahu in the case of the United Arab Emirates, but it frees up money so that they can fund a genocide. And I think that that's very, very important, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. As I made mention, get educated, Blood and Gold, great documentary. It's on YouTube. Share it. Encourage other people to boycott the United Arab Emirates and divest from them. I think that it would be a great step forward, and Allah knows best. All right. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Is there a certain reason why Egypt is not fighting Israel? Bribery, cowardice, or do they just do not care? The legacy of Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is totally ruined, and that matters to him. But bribery, yes. Cowardice, absolutely. I mean, how you can stand there and watch as your Muslim brothers and sisters, or just even humans, if you're not even a Muslim, or you're not even a religious person, look, if you see that there's some woman being beaten by somebody outside, some old woman, and does it make a difference if she's Christian? Does it make a difference if she's Jewish or she's Muslim? You just say, hey man, this is not right. This is just morally corrupt. I'm going to go and help her. And the only way that this stops happening is if there's money on the table, there's cowardice in the hearts. That's what's created the apathy for Egypt. And I do believe it's going to cost him a great deal. Now we've got Wujuju in the house, and they said, Assalamu alaikum, Brother Bilal. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Sending love from Australia. Jazakum Allah khair. Ahabbaka alladhi ahbabtani fi. And I love you for the sake of the one whom you love me for. All right. Okay, all right, we've got here, Assalamu alaikum. What is the general Syrian people's thing about Jolani's dealing with the West, meeting with American president in France? Well, we gotta have to take a look. We're gonna talk about three categories here. Category one, the fighters. How do they view it? Category two, the people who lived in the northern part of the country. Category three, the people who live in the southern part of the country. Let's get started. Number one, the fighters, many of them that I've spoken to feel betrayed. They feel that there's been some type of deception which has been going on, and they're just not feeling good about a lot of different things, which I think a lot of people can understand. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that there's a conspiracy going on here. I'm not saying that. But a lot of them are saying, how did Jolani go from being on with a $10 million bounty on his head, and then in the early part of December, to 5 months later, he's standing with the U.S. president, and U.S. president is saying he's cool. They're not feeling good about that. They feel that something ain't right. That's the fighters. But then you've got the people who lived in the northern part of the country. The northern part of the country are the people who were made refugees from the southern areas and lived under countless bombs from Bashar al-Assad and his forces, and they know very well what the West is all about. They're lukewarm about it. They want the country to get back on track, but they're skeptical of whether these relations with America, who's funding a genocide that's taking place right in Gaza, really has their best interests at heart. They're skeptical. The third category are the people in the southern part of the country. Now, their case is a bit different because they actually, for the most part, were not a part of the military side of the revolution. And they didn't have rockets and bombs raining down on them in on their homes. They just want to see economic prosperity and the country to move forward. So they look at it as a good thing that he sat with Donald Trump and he is able to move in these circles. Those are the three major categories, and Allah knows best. All right, let's take one more. Hassan says, Assalamu alaikum, brother. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Do the Syrians have any ambitions of a caliphate or liberating Jerusalem? I'm going to assume you're talking about the fighters. The answer to that question is yes. If you're talking about the average Syrian citizen, no. They are weary of war and economic hardship, and they just kind of want this whole thing to go away. That's not realistic. I don't think that those feelings are actually going to materialize, but I believe that that's how they're feeling. We'll have to wait and see. So they're talking about the average Syrian. No, they want economic recovery and just to move past the Bashar al-Assad days. The fighters have a totally different idea in mind, in that anybody who has an Islamic heart beating in their chest and sees their Muslim brothers and sisters suffering in the West Bank and in Gaza, there'd be something wrong with them if they did not want an opportunity at some point to be able to free their brothers and sisters from the oppression that they themselves were once under, and Allah knows best. Okay, brothers and sisters, we're going to wrap this up. Brothers and sisters, I need your help. I want you to help us out. We've got this project going on, and you can take a look at our crowdfunding page at medina.com/voices of truth. What's Voices of Truth? This is a project that I'm heading wherein we are documenting the atrocities which the Bashar al-Assad government committed against the people of Syria. Now, some people will sit there and say, wait a minute, why are we documenting this? The revolution is over. But if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it, and that's what we don't want to happen. So We are interviewing people who were affected by the Assad regime, whether they are ex-prisoners or family members of prisoners who never returned, or people who actually needed out some of the oppression. We are interviewing them in short interviews so that you can benefit from their experiences. People who never thought that they would ever get an opportunity to tell their story, we are helping to bring those voices to you. Take a look at our crowdfunding page. That's medina.com/voices of truth. I am Bilal Abdul Kareem. Jazakum Allah khair. Until the next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.